Hey guys, another Let's Max Warframe episode for you this week. Today was update day, and with it came another addition to the spear gun class of weapons to join the Javelok, and that's the Ferrox. Now the Ferrox is following the current theme of content relating to and surrounding clans. Like the Javelok, it can be found in the clan dojo, although understandably it's inside the Corpus research room. The research it's not terribly expensive, but as far as I can understand, it's going to need field run to be able to build the final weapon. So once the research is done and you have the final weapon, what are you actually getting? Well, you get a Mastery Rank 7 weapon with a primary and a secondary fire mode. Primary fire's got a pretty damn high base damage of 350, most of it comes in as puncture with 245, 70 as slash and 35 as impact. It actually makes it one of the hardest hitting weapons in the game. Couple that with a 30% critical chance and 250% critical damage multiplier, then you can imagine that when this crits, it's going to hit pretty damn hard. Well, with just a 10% status chance though, it's not going to proc very often, even if you do try and mod specifically for it. The primary fire is highly accurate, it's basically a highly accurate charged shot, almost like an opticore, but it's unable to fire without it being fully charged, and that takes half a second to do so. It also seems to be hit scan as well, even though it does have a visual that makes it look like it's not. It's kind of strange and it's kind of off-putting, but it's definitely there. It's also got punch through built into the primary as well, which is very, very nice. Because then you don't need to put punch through on there, otherwise you're going to find yourself throwing your Ferrox through the map every time you try to use the secondary fire. Talking of the secondary fire, I don't know a huge amount about it right now. Like, I've done a load of testing, but I'm unable to come up with any concrete stats. I really want those secondary stats already on the stat screen in game. That really needs to happen. But what the secondary fire does is that, like the Javelok, you throw the weapon like a spear. Unlike the Javelok though, the Ferrox doesn't explode on contact. What it's going to do instead is that it will snare any enemy within what appears to be about 5 meters of it, and it slowly draws them towards the weapon itself, and it deals some damage over time. I'm not 100% sure how much the damage is, but it doesn't appear to be anything too great from what I've noticed. I've also noticed that there were very few crits, if any. I really didn't see any at all, but there were some status procs, so it can spread status to anything that it's actually tethered to, and that's not a bad way of using it. Enemies can break free of that tether though, but they are slowed significantly while they are doing that, and it allows you to dispatch them with your secondary weapon pretty easily. So considering that it's once again a game of two halves, much like the Euphona, how did I decide to mod the Ferrox? Well, it came with a V and a D polarity straight out the box, so I removed the D polarity with Former, and I actually ended up putting 5 Former on there. We ended up with 4 Vs and a dash. The first build I went with a crit heavy build, that's Serration, Split Chamber, Point Strike, Vital Sense, Vile Acceleration for charge speed, Bladed Rounds for more crit damage, and then 2 90% elemental mods. That bladed rounds could be Argon Scope, you could put basically anything in there that you really want to. This thing hits incredibly hard, doing some serious damage, and is certainly my favourite build right now. Modding to really push the damage of that primary fire while not focusing too much on the secondary, using that almost like a tether grenade to hold the enemies to a spot that you can just go to work on them with your secondary weapon, and then when you have the Ferrox back in your hand again, you can get back to landing those huge hits. The second build though, I tried to push the damage up from the secondary fire. I didn't really notice much in the way of crits while I was testing the secondary, but I did notice a little bit of status, so I just went in with as much elemental damage as possible. Serration, Split Chamber, Heavy Caliber, I've got a Prime Bane mod in there to push the damage up further. I've only got 1 dual stat elemental and 3 90% elemental mods, but you could just go in with full 60% elementals if you want to, the dual stats. To be honest, the throw mechanic, you don't need much fire rate on there, so that's why there's no Vile Acceleration. But this is designed to be thrown at an area and just let the weapon do the damage for you. I really did not like this build very much though. I don't find the secondary fire really strong enough to warrant build specifically for, especially since the damage only ticks once every sort of second or two. So you're only ever going to get a couple of ticks of damage off before they break the tether anyway. But I put this in here just to show you guys, so you've got an idea of how the build was that I was actually using to test the secondary fire. So what do I think of the Ferrox? Do I like it much, and do I think it's worth the formula to take it to max now? And you know what, like I said earlier, it's a game of two halves. To start with, I spent the time leveling, and I was like, this doesn't excite me as much as the Javelok. And I was expecting the world out of the secondary fire, much like the Javelok's is pretty damn good. I was all prepared to come into this video and go, actually, I don't like it very much at all. But then I finished the format and played with it a bit longer, ran a few fishes, and eventually I really started to enjoy it again. This is never going to be outkilling your damage frames with the top bullet hoses. I mean, you've got a weapon that only has a single shot, and that's never likely to be happening. But the utility it has with the secondary fire is actually what changes my opinion on this a lot. I always recognise that the primary fire does a ton of damage. And if you like the Opticore, you are going to like this a lot, especially, well, basically it's an Opticore on a stick. But using the secondary as a trap was way more useful than I initially gave it credit for. Throwing this underneath a fissure that just popped up, slowing everything down that comes out of it, nullifiers and all, is so useful. It allows you to line them up easily for your secondary weapon, in this case which was my Euphona, just to pop them one by one. I found this weapon really satisfying to use in either state. It's a sortie ready primary or purely something to augment your crowd control. The Ferrox really won me over. I'm not convinced I'm going to use it very often because it doesn't really suit my playstyle, but it is a weapon I can see good players doing something good with. So I hope you enjoyed my look at the Ferrox, the new Corpus Spear Gun. My Dark Sector series is actually going to be finishing this week. The final few episodes are pretty solid and quite fun, so I hope you look forward to those. However, for now, thank you all so much for watching, and I shall see you in the next video.